Hi, I'm April Kennedy, and today we're in Richmond, California at Wildcat Canyon, which is part of the East Bay Regional Park System. We're going to focus most of my assessment today on Alvarado Day-Use Park, but we are going to take a hike up to some of the peaks of Wildcat Canyon.
Alvarado Park primarily has been owned by the City of Richmond until it was acquired by East Bay Regional Park District in 1985 and became part of Wildcat Canyon Regional Park. The park was a very popular escape during the boom of the 1950s and once had a dance floor, an open-air pavilion, which at one time was converted to a roller rink. The park is still very popular during peak seasons and holidays, which does have potential for crowding situations, as well as conflict depending on the visitors and what type of recreation is taking place. This is a picture of the entryway at Alvarado Park. It's dog friendly, it's a day use only location. You have the ability to reserve campsites in advance. There is running water and some drinking fountains in locations, as well as very well maintained bathrooms. There's also some great barbecue options depending which campsite you reserve. This is an example of a more urban area, but Wildcat Canyon, which this is part of, and we'll show some examples of that area later on, has a lot more opportunity for remote recreation. Alvarado Park has really amazing masonry work that primarily took place in the mid-1950s. Most of the work took place by Italian immigrants related to a lot of Depression-era funding. You can still see a lot of examples of this in the form of rock walls, bridges, and structures. There's also some pretty amazing barbecue pits that have been upgraded and still are in use, but have the masonry work of the 1950s. One of many things I appreciate about this park is that they have a lot of trash cans and options for recycling. There's great picnic benches as well as signage throughout the park and various locations within it. As you can see in this picture, there's a lot of really excellent signage as well as fences and boarding to ensure that people don't create their own trails and go to areas that are trying to be protected for plant life. I also saw some good examples in Wildcat Canyon where they had recently reseeded areas and had signs up to respectfully ask hikers not to go into those areas so that the seed and the plants have an opportunity to thrive.
This is Wildcat Creek. It's right next to a pretty nice little day-use site here. There's lots of beautiful trees like buckeyes, coast live oaks, and it's very soothing to hear the water while you camp out and have some tasty bites. This is my videographer here, Laura Sutton, also known as my mom. What do you think of this place, Mom?
Loving it.
This is the main restroom. You can see it's over by Camp Alvarado, which is the largest camp. It has a very large barbecue and different facilities. It has running water, well maintained, and lots of supplies. It's the only bathroom in the day-use campsite area.
Wildcat Canyon is part of the East Bay Regional Park District and Contra Costa and Alameda counties. The East Bay Regional Park District is the largest regional park system in the United States with over 120,000 acres, which is very impressive, especially for being in a very urban area with extremely high property values. Wildcat Canyon was first inhabited by the Ohlone Native Americans. It was an excellent location to hunt, gather fish, and offered plenty of freshwater resources. It also had a much more mild climate than some of the areas that Native Americans inhabited, where they had to migrate during winter and summer conditions. The area was later taken over by the Spanish invasion in the late 1700s. Wildcat Canyon was acquired in 1910 and now spans almost 2,800 acres, which connects to Tilden Regional Park. As you can see in the map, it indicates where Tilden Park is, and if you look over to the left lower hand of the map, you can see Alvarado Park, which we've mostly talked about in this presentation.
Here we're transitioning from Alvarado picnic use campsite area to Wildcat Canyon, and here is their demonstration site for a shaded fuel break. So as you can see, there's quite a few eucalyptus trees in the area. Previous pictures show that this was densely populated with understory, and they got together and created a project to thin this out. So if a fire were to start in the area, there's not good lateral fuels to get into the crown. In 1910, prospectors began growing eucalyptus trees in hopes that it could be harvested for lumber to create houses in a booming market. Unfortunately, what they didn't know is eucalyptus crack and they do not make good lumber. So there were about 3 million of these trees abandoned, and they're not native. So they had no competition, and they've really spread and taken over some areas within the bay. Hi, it's me again. So now we're at the trailhead for Wildcat Canyon. There's no public restrooms, but those are further down in the parking lot. It is a multi-use area for daytime only, so I believe the time is from 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. There is potential for a lot of conflict, so you have hikers, people that want to watch birds. It's also an off-leash area behind this gate for dogs, and people can bring their horses in for packing. So lots of opportunities to recreate, but also some opportunities to potentially have conflict. We're going to go ahead and walk up the shaded, more flat area, and then we'll also give you some views that are escaping and beautiful across the bay. Hey there, we're back, and we are hiking up the fire break road that's very flatly graded. It's got a few inclines here and there. Some parts are unpaved, but this section is paved. As you can see, there's quite a bit of tree biodiversity in the area. There's coast live oaks, bay laurels, Monterey pines, Monterey cypresses, with the occasional redwood that's been planted or dropped off by seed. This is a pretty nice area where if people want a little less wilderness experience by using the road, that it's a pretty good opportunity. I see a lot of mountain bikers, walkers, hikers, people with their dogs, and a lot of horses that take this trail. Here's a nice coast live oak tree that unfortunately some hikers have vandalized by carving their initials in the bark. Most people don't realize that this actually can harm the tree and open the tree to different diseases and decay. So this section of Wildcat Canyon is obviously more remote, less paved. There's a lot of wear and tear on the ground, soil compaction, hoof marks from cattle, as well as marks from mountain bikes. You can see there's some trails that are off the main section. There'll be quite a few of these throughout the area. We're at one of the peaks at Wildcat Canyon, and just across from us you can see the the city of San Francisco. It's a pretty great view from here. It's rather windy out, so I'll try and speak a little bit. As you span to the left here, that's open, and you can see some of the residential areas nearby the park. There's several more peaks over to the left here, and as that trail continues, you can actually connect to Inspiration Point and eventually Tilden Park if you are up for a very long trek. There's also some water towers with a fire road. There is a gate over there, but for some hikers that's a good opportunity. There's some parking, so if you have issues with hills, there's a good access and opportunity to get out in the wilderness without hurting your knees, or if you maybe have disability problems. So as I mentioned before, this is an area where dogs can be off leash as long as they are under the command of their owner. I believe there's limits on 3 dogs per person, but I've never seen anyone out doing any type of enforcement. There is quite a bit of poison oak, so definitely need to be aware of that, especially if your dog's off leash. This area has been maintained, but as you can see over here to the left, this is more like the grass area that dogs potentially can be running through. There's a whole lot of foxtails, ticks, and there's quite a few coyotes out in the area. So my little guy Sancho, as you can see here, who's having a conflict with some cattle, he would be a nice light appetizer for coyotes, so I tend to keep him on leash and try not to stay out when it's dusk.
Thank you for spending time with me and learning more about Wildcat Canyon and Alvarado Park. A few things we covered today are that this is a great spot, especially if you're in the Bay Area, to take a hike with your dogs or your friends. There's off-leash options, which is excellent. If you want to take your horses out, this is also an area where you can really put in some mileage. There's great views of the Bay Area in a very short hiking distance, or you can take a much longer hike to other parks where it links, like Tilden. I highly recommend this spot. There's no cost to use it, and for me, it's a really special place. I also want to thank my mom for taking the hike with me, supporting my videography, and Sancho, our tour guide. I'm so glad he made the decision to back off from his conflict with that cow. We did not want to have any serious incidents during this presentation. Thank you, and I've enjoyed my time here at Wildcat Canyon and Alvarado Park.